We're going to take a deep dive into the Stats app with the developer himself. Welcome to the first in a two-part series video I did with Ramin, the developer of Stats app. Now what we did in a previous video is we just kind of got to know the guy behind the app. And what we're going to do in the next two videos is really dive deep into the app with the developer himself. And I thought, what a better way to do that than with Ramin. Now, what we discovered when I introduced you to him in the last video was how much he's really contributed to the Tesla community. And quite honestly, has contributed to the Tesla experience. Because his app not only improves upon the native Tesla app, but it also taps into your car's database and compiling all of that information into an easy to understand format. Now, in order to tap into all of that data, you need to give the Stats app your Tesla credentials, your username and password. And although you should always be careful who you give those credentials to, Ramin explains why it's perfectly safe in this case.
Passwords and then the email even are not sent to any server. They are stored encrypted in the Apple keychain on the device only. And I want to stay as far possible away from the user credential, and because there's no reason for me to have it. So the app works with tokens that it generates once you have the credentials. And tokens are sent to Tesla for subsequent transactions. And your credentials are maintained on your device only, and even then they're stored in the apps in the device's keychain. Keychain is this thing that iOS has, is heavily encrypted. Nobody can access it. Even Apple cannot access it if they don't have your credentials to unlock your phone. So the right thing for Tesla to do, and I hope they did that, is to do a proper authentication protocol that has existed for years now. It's called OAuth. And with OAuth, the third-party developer has never seen, you never enter your credentials directly into the app. It takes you to a web page, you enter it there, and that web page would be Tesla's. And that generates a token which in turn the app uses in order to do what it does. But that sort of Tesla has sort of implemented this, but not fully. So in the meantime, I have to tell people to see our privacy policy, which is written plain English. I'm not a lawyer, but in the privacy policy, essentially, I emphasize that it's stored only on the device, and that's very important to me.
So then, like you said, on top of that, kind of expanding that, is if you wanted to, you couldn't even get everyone's credentials, right? You have no access to it.
I have no access to it, no. And that's the case for the other third-party apps also, because it's a liability that you don't want to have, right?
Okay.
So absolutely not. I don't have anybody's password or even email. I don't even want their email addresses because I don't spam them. It's not necessary.
Now, once you sign in, the adventure begins. And the first screen looks like this. The top bar is essentially the menu tab, and tapping each one of the icons will take you to a different category. Now, you can also swipe to the left or right to browse through those categories, which will also highlight the icon on the menu bar to let you know where you are.
The first tab just gives you an overview of the what's going on with the car, and like a bill of health, if you will, for the car. And it starts by showing the battery percentage, the charge limit, how much phantom drain you average out over the past 10 days you've had in terms of miles per hour. It shows the estimated range, rated range, driving efficiency, and MPG. So MPG, we all know what MPG is, miles per gallon. MPG is a measure of efficiency for gas cars, ICE cars. MPGE was an effort to let people who are accustomed to MPG understand efficiency of electric cars by converting MPG to MPG equivalent. Now, the mathematical definition of it is in Wikipedia and other places you can see it, but mathematical definition aside, it tells me that, for example, for my car, the MPG is 131, which is to say that if this were an ICE car, a gas car, its MPG would have been about 130 or 131 in my case. What's yours?
Mine's 162. So that would be saying like if I had a gallon of gas in my car, I could go 162 miles on that gallon of
Exactly,
gas.
that's exactly it.
Okay.
They have computed how much energy there is in a gallon of gas. Once you know that, you can come up with a MPG.
Wow. I mean, why would anybody want a gas car if you know you can get 162 miles a gallon, right? I mean,
Hundreds. Yeah.
that's pretty
What is your
amazing.
efficiency? This is really efficient for your car.
120%.
Okay. Yeah, the Model 3 is a lot more efficient than Model S.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
envy
Yeah,
you
so it's
guys.
a bigger car. All right, so let's kind of so of course at the top there you got the your battery. You've got the phantom drain, which you said is the average for the last 10 days.
Occasionally, I get this thing that people say, my phantom drain is high, it must be your app. And one of the reasons that I put the histogram of phantom drain in the app is to show that what users of my app are experiencing in terms of phantom drain. So it objectively shows what is the distribution of phantom drain. Is it really high? Is it really low? Is it somewhere in between? So you can see for yourself objectively what the distribution is, and it's low. And it's really difficult to collect all the information that the app collects and does everything the app does with minimal phantom drain. And you have to play tricks and do adaptive algorithms, and I had to do that. And in a recent is like 3 months ago now, when Tesla changed the behavior of the car with respect to sleep pattern, I had to make algorithmic changes to adapt to it. And it's a complicated algorithm now. It learns how your car sleeps and adapts to it, and it doesn't wake it up when it needs to go to deep sleep. So it was a challenging thing to do, and now we can see the result of it. The phantom drain distribution is very low. Of course, if you use Sentry mode, its consumption is 1 mile per hour because all the cameras are running and recording constantly. By the way, when Sentry is on, it's not just that the cameras are on. In addition to that, they are recording constantly because when an event is detected, they need to dump what they have recorded, a few minutes before and a few minutes after.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So the phantom drain, that just seems like people just want to blame somebody and they're looking for answers. What are I'm sure this is going to be a total open-ended question or something you really can't answer, but there's probably a million reasons as to why some people may have high phantom drain, right? I mean, there's probably so really you have to just kind of try to find out yourself where the source is coming from, correct?
Yes, so major sources are Sentry mode now that it exists, and the other one that is even more battery consuming is the if you preheat your car or pre-cool it before you get into it, which my app actually allows you to do that, like smart heating and cooling. So if you use those features, obviously it drains more because the energy has to come from somewhere. But aside from that, if you don't use these two features, your phantom drain should be around between zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.4 miles per hour.
Okay.
Probably, I need to look at the app to see what it says actually. Yeah, mine is Model S phantom drain is less than Model 3 for some reason. So my Model S average is about 0.27 and my Model 3 is zero point 0.5. But Model 3, which belongs to my wife, she uses Sentry mode a lot. That's why it's 0.5. So half the day she uses Sentry mode.
Well, and what's interesting is I don't have Sentry mode when I'm on at home, but I do have it on everywhere else. So maybe that kind of it averages it out through the day, correct?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
if you do that and you have Model 3, you are probably sitting at zero point 0.5 miles per hour.
I'm
That's what my
actually
life is.
is that first one on there? That's kind of the average for the day, right? On your first page where you have that yellow bar, the phantom drain rate, miles per hour.
It's not per day, it's per 10 days almost.
Oh, okay. So that's the average, correct?
Right. Yeah.
So
What are
my
you
my
sitting at?
average is actually 1.1.
Oh, okay. So
So
you're using more.
I'm still trying to figure out exactly where that's coming from. I don't blame your app, by the way, but I'm still trying to figure that out because there are some days I'm like, man, that seems kind of high. So I'm still trying to figure out what that's all about. Um,
That's high, and I have a suggestion actually. Um, Log out, change your password, and log back in. I don't know why that would improve things, but people have reported that if you're experiencing high drain, changing the password somehow fixes it.
which is a good practice, anyways. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think I might try that. I'll give that a shot. All right, so you've got the estimated range and the rated range. What's the difference between those two?
Oh, I should have explained that. So rated range is what Tesla um, expects you to get given the state of charge that you have. If you have 50%, and they expect you to go for 150 miles, for example. Um, but that's typical with quotation as Tesla considers typical. If you live in an area that is much, much colder or much, much hotter, you may get less than that, and that's estimated efficiency. If you drive conservatively, the range that you can get out of 50% of battery is higher than what Tesla considered typical or rated range. So estimated range is closer to what you will get in reality from your car. And that's computed by Tesla, by the way, also.
Oh,
And
okay. I was
I,
wondering. Yeah.
I just displayed.
Okay. All right. And then, of course, you've got the driving efficiency. And so, what we were kind of talking earlier about the MPGE. So, you defined that. What does the driving efficiency tell you? What is that?
Well, it's very simple. It's just the ratio between the estimated range and rated range. And sometimes I get the question that, oh, my efficiency is bigger than 100%. How is that possible? It simply means that you get better range that Tesla considers as typical. So
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I'm at 120. So I must drive conservatively.
very. Do you put in chill mode?
No, I don't. But you know what? I like to step on it. Yeah, I have a good time with it. So
Okay.
that's interesting. But I guess I just drove to and from work. So when you're looking at the driving efficient, is that just for from the time that you charged to the current time?
Driving efficiency is measured over a longer range, typically
Okay.
about 30 to 50 miles.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it takes the 30 to 50 miles. Does it kind of refresh after that? Or does it, so every 30 to 50 miles, you know what your driving efficiency will be, and then it refreshes after 30 to 50 miles?
Correct. It's a moving window, like a moving average.
Okay. All right. And the same thing with MPGE, right? Kind of the same concept there.
Same exact, right. It's a moving average over the past 30 or 50 miles.
Okay. Now, below that, kind of in small print, we've got a couple other things that are not interactive, just some information it looks like. So, what are those? You got the charge state, you got the disconnected, watts per mile. So, what is the watts per mile? 209. What is that?
So watt hour per mile is a measure is another way of conveying what your efficiency is. Um, so watt hour is a unit of energy. So what it says that you spend this much energy to go 1 mile,
Okay. So
and so watt
mine
hour
is
mile
mine is
per mile is that.
209. So I spend or I use 209 watt hours per mile. Gotcha.
So the lower the better, right? You want to spend less energy per
Mm-hmm.
mile. So your efficiency is better than mine, therefore your watt hour per mile is lower.
Okay.
lower is better in this case.
And what's interesting is it seems like 209 is a pretty big number. I mean, that sounds high, but I guess from the standpoint of energy, it's not. All right, so recent charging sessions. You got added miles, 63. So that was my last charge, was 63 miles. And I added 14.66 kilowatt hours. And it cost me $2.64 based on what I had input, and we'll get to that later. Anything else on this that we haven't discussed on this page right here? We did the
So this
fan and
page,
drain.
this first page, the contents of it changes depending on whether you're charging or not. Right now, you're not charging, and therefore it shows this information. When you're charging, the lower two gauges change to time to finish the charge and charge rate.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to plug that in and I'll kind of take a look at that. Good. All right. So we've got that. You've got everything on this page that you think is good here. All right. So
Yes.
let's go on to the next page, which is what would you call that icon? You go from the battery icon to the bar graph icon.
Right. So in this graph, in this tab, I should say, or screen, I show information related to your car. I emphasize your car because the next tab shows information of other
Okay.
users, and you can compare yours with them. So in this second tab, it's information only related to your car.
Okay.
Uh, on the first chart, we see the battery information related to charging. It shows again added miles, the cost of charging, energy added, and the last one, which is interesting to me, is saving, how much
Yeah.
you saved. Should I elaborate what saving means here?
Well, and that's going to be, I'm assuming, gas, right? What you would pay for gas, which would you
Correct.
put you
So
which you would put in the algorithm yourself. You add what you're paying for gas in your area.
exactly right. In the settings, you specify what the price of gas is, and you also specify the MPG for a gas car with which you want to compare your saving against.
What would you recommend, like for someone like me who doesn't have? Well, I mean, I've got a truck, but I don't really want to compare to that because that's not fair. But what would you suggest for people to put in their range or their miles per gallon?
Something between 25 and 30 is reasonable.
Okay.
Most cars these days are between 25 and 30.
Okay.
So I put the MPG of the last gas car that I had before I got my Tesla.
Okay. So I guess I'm
And
on the higher end. I think I put in 30 for mine. Um, so yeah, that sounds about right. So this is all
right,
pretty self-explanatory, right? You've got the daily, the last 7 days, and of course the last 30 days. And then of course you can also tap on those, right, to get the exact number.
that's exactly right. Yeah. And another hidden feature here is that if you select cost, you can tap and hold on a bar, and it allows you to change the cost for that particular charging session.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So like if you were at a supercharger or something, you would see what it would cost for that, or if you were at a public charging station and they charge you, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Supercharger, it's automatic. It recognizes that it's supercharging it
Oh,
and applies the charging associated with its supercharger
okay, cool. I
automatically.
don't do a lot of supercharging, so at least I haven't lately. So, and then on the right of that particular graph, you've got two different things, such as the information. So, of course, it does give you a tip, um, but also the sharing. So you can export the data. If I were to export this data, what would I do with it? What can I do with the export? What form of file is it?
So if you really want to geek out, you can export it as a CSV file. That's a comma separated value, which any spreadsheet reader can read. You can use Excel or Google Sheet or Apple Numbers. So you can export the data in that format, or you can just get a screen grab of that specific chart
Okay.
and share it on social media or email it to yourself, etc.
So I just did that for the first time, and so there's the screen grab. So it just kind of grabs what's on that particular screen.
Right.
Okay.
Now I can tweet about it, for example, and say, hey, this is my saving.
Look how much money I saved today or something. Okay. All right, so now we go to the one below that, and that's going to have the driving efficiency and the MPGE. So let's talk about this section here.
Right. So we covered efficiency in the previous
Mm-hmm.
screen. This one shows that as a function of odometer. So it shows as as you've driven the car in the past, what your efficiency was and what it is now. And you can average that over 50 miles, 200 miles, or 500 miles.
And then so on the left side, that is the percent. On
Correct.
the y-axis, that's the percent, and on the x-axis, that is it looks like your odometer.
That's exactly right. So the
So
title says driving efficiency percent
versus
versus
odometer,
odometer
right?
miles.
Okay, yes, okay. You're like, read the thing. All right. So again, the average over 50, 200, and 500, cool. And then it looks like you can also tap on each dot to get the specific number. And then also on the right there, kind of the same concept, right? Oh, I see. So that's not really exporting. That's just taking a look at your driving efficiency on a graph.
So that's if you want to really geek out and see how your efficiency changes versus temperature.
Oh, okay.
So for you and me, we live in areas that don't get too cold or too warm. So it's less interesting, but still I can see that, at least for me, my efficiency increases as I get closer to 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
It can get pretty
So I've
hot here
seen
in the
people.
summer, by the way. It gets up to about 100 degrees.
Ah, okay, not here.
All
So
right,
yeah,
so
so
yes, you can just look at your
I was
efficiency
always
based on temperature. Okay.
right. It shows versus temperature.
All right, so then we're looking at the drive going back to the driving efficiency. Then you have the MPGE. So then again, kind of the same concept here. You can look at 50, 200 with your odometer um, and tap on what your MPG is based on your odometer. Okay.
Right. So you can see that, for example, a week ago, my efficiency, or 200 miles ago, my efficiency was this much. And
Okay.
yeah,
Um, so
efficient.
when I'm looking at this, the average over 200 miles. So my average here says average equals 127. So is that going to
Okay.
kind of give you the average overall of the 200? Okay.
Yes, that's lifetime.
So
The
yeah.
thing that the average that you see on the title of the graph is a lifetime.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we got MPGE. Anything else on that section you want to talk about?
No, like you said, it's self-explanatory.
All right, so the next one is miles driven. And you can see that's pretty self-explanatory as well. It looks like, how it looks like I see a spike here. I went on a road trip with my family last weekend, so I can see a spike there in the last 7 days, 30 days. Pretty self-explanatory, simple enough. So the y-axis is um,
Miles driven.
miles driven, and then the x-axis is the date when you
Day.
drove those miles. Okay, and then of course you can also tap on each dot for those miles, um, and then you
And you
can
can export
export. You
them.
can export that as well. Looks like you can also export it. Uh, yes, share an image. Good. Next um, is the kilowatt versus state of charge. This one might be a little more complicated. I think we may get a little lesson in what all this means. So, what is the kilowatt versus state of charge?
So state of charge is just a fancy name for saying battery percentage.
Aha, okay.
And I didn't know about that. It's a Tesla lingo that I learned also by being part of the community. We call it state of charge. Uh, and it's also shorter to put in there as opposed to battery percentage.
Oh, okay.
Um, so sometimes I go to the supercharger, and I want to know how my charge rate varies. You've noticed that as your battery percentage gets fuller, the charge rate becomes lower.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it's interesting to see that progression. And a lot of users ask for that. It's more interesting if you do supercharging. If you're doing home charging, it's a flat line. so it's not that
Yes.
interesting. But for
Yeah.
example, you can see in my chart,
Oh, okay.
it changes as the state of charge increases.
Okay.
It's to Batteries do that naturally. As they get fuller, it gets longer for them to charge.
Yes.
And the y-axis here, the vertical axis, is the kilowatt. Kilowatt is a measure of charging rate. Kilowatt hour is a measure of energy, and kilowatt is a measure of charging rate.
Okay.
So for example, in my graph, which was the supercharging I did yesterday, shows that it started from 74 and then it degrades to 43 as my battery percentage reached 80%.
Okay. All right. Interesting. And then you got the kilowatt versus time. Kind of the same concept, right?
Same
As
concept. You can plot this versus battery, and you can plot it versus time.
okay. And then you can also looks like a trash can. So if you just don't want that in there?
You can delete this charging session
Ah,
for
okay.
whatever reason.
Okay. And so what it does, so really all this is really doing is taking your last one. It's not going to give you a history of your charges, correct?
It would give you a history if you on top of you see left arrow and right arrow,
I see
so you
that.
can browse
Yes.
between
Oh,
previous and
got it. Got it.
next.
So you can go as far back as you want.
I keep about 15 sessions.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
that's enough to.
Yeah, there's probably not any need to because there's probably a lot of data in there. Is that data that just kind of fills up space, or is it coming directly from? Okay.
It fills up a lot of space and I have to pay for that every month.
Oh, I see. Okay, good, good.
That's why a subscription model is
So for
necessary.
those of you at home complaining that it doesn't go back 5 months, there's a reason for that. Pay him more money than maybe. All right. So let's go down to battery health, and this is kind of a cool feature because it kind of gives the user an idea, if they're seeing any kind of degradation in their battery. So is that blue line where you should be?
So let me explain the orange dots first. The orange dots shows that what your range would be, rated range would be if your battery was 100% full.
Okay.
And there is noise in it, right? Because there's variation due to temperature, there's variation due to quantization errors. That's why you see this goes up and down. It's not just a fixed number. So the linear fit, the blue line, is an attempt to take the noise out and take the outliers out and shows you the trend.
Okay.
Now the trend got messed up when Tesla gave you guys extra free miles,
Yes.
which I didn't get on my Model 3 because it's dual motor for some reason.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of people have been talking about that. I have the rear wheel drive. So yeah, so I see mine kind of go up a little bit here, whereas in yours it's going to stay pretty flat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mine
oh,
is
there
flat.
you go. Yeah, because I remember before that added range, it was flat like that. So
Yeah,
over time, I can only assume that mine will go back to flat, correct?
it will, or it will degrade a little bit. Like this is for Model S. You can see that it degrades
Oh,
a
you can
little
see the
bit,
little yes, the degradation. Okay.
the degradation rate. It was interesting that I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. One of my users showed that his battery degradation was severe using this battery health, and he took it to Tesla, and they did their own test. Obviously, they didn't rely on the app, but at least it triggered him to take the car to Tesla, and they said, "Oh yeah, you need a new battery."
Oh, wow. And that was based off of your app.
Well, they didn't rely. Tesla didn't rely on my app, but the
But
app
your but
triggered
your
the
friend but your friend did. Your friend was on the app
right.
and he goes, "Hey, I okay, cool." So then yeah, they
Yeah.
did their own diagnostics at the Tesla's station and they're probably yes, they probably was like, "Oh, you need a new battery." Cool. Um, so this goes back to it looks like that's the odometer. Yes, there's the odometer. So once we get to a certain point where I got the 325 miles, then I'll probably see that little bit of degradation. Okay. Um, So is that it on that one? You can also graph that one out. It looks like you can also export it and share the image.
Correct.
Um,
Yes.
all right. So now we've got your phantom drain. Oh, the famous phantom drain. So it looks like this can get pretty complicated as well. So what do we have here?
So this shows how much you lose, where you have lost it, and the loss occurred during this duration. It tells you all that for every phantom drain session. Now, whenever you park your car somewhere for a while, it incurs phantom drain automatically because various reasons. It goes to charge the 12-volt battery to Sentry mode if it's activated, and the battery naturally loses some charge when it sits. So if you tap on one of these bars, you see the location that this phantom drain occurred. And on the map, you see your car and it says, oh, it lost 4 miles in 21 hours. Now, you usually look at the phantom drain rate, which is the last selection on the top that says rate in terms of mile per hour because it's normalized. Like if I lost 4 miles in 2 hours, that's not so good. But if I lost 4 miles in 21 hours, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And you,
so yeah, so you got the on the left you got the range, and that's going to give you the date and time. It looks like. So is that going to take like when you parked, kind of the
it,
date?
it shows the end of that phantom duration. So if you park your car in your garage for during the weekend, for example, and then it shows the end of that session,
Got
which
it.
is on
Okay.
Monday.
Okay, yeah. So I can see when I left for work this morning. I can see when I left work to come back home. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and
And if you
then
tap on it, you see the location at work or at home
yes,
where the drain
exactly,
occurred.
exactly. So that's the daily. You got the range mile, and then the duration. Let's see here. So the duration. How is that different from the range graph here?
So the range says how much you lost.
Okay.
The duration says over this period of time. And the rate says is the ratio of the two.
Well, that wraps up the first in a two-part series interview I did with Ramin, the developer of Stats app. Now, of course, we cover two categories in this first part of the series. And as we go into the next video, in the next part of the interview, we will go over three different categories. Now, the first one will be looking at all of the data that comes in from all of the app users and how your car and your data compares to that data coming in as well. We'll also take a look at the functionality of the car. You know, the Tesla native app does quite well, and these are things that are offered in the Stats app as well, and I think Ramin has done a great job expanding upon a lot of those functions and making it easier and, quite honestly, better. And we'll also go over the settings tab. And the settings tab is where you have a lot of different things in there, such as frequently asked questions, smart features, tools, energy cost, notifications. The list goes on and on. So be sure to look for that video. And of course, in the meantime, give this video a thumbs up if you thought the information within the video was helpful and useful. And if you want to subscribe to my channel to make sure you get a notification when that next video comes up, be sure to do that. So until that next video, stay positively charged.